And welcome to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Each week we uncover stories behind the people who live and work right here in Southwest Missouri. Those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit who work to better the lives of others or put pen to paper to write books about the stories and history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm your host, Scott Meier, and today we're going to explore the world of fundraising, but not just every fundraising event that's out there, but this is with St. Jude's. So it's the St. Jude's Children Research Hospital fundraising. And with me is someone I've had a chance to get to know in the broadcasting business, but not in the fundraising business, as he was our operations manager here at the Midwest Family for quite a while. Scott Ellis. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
That's let's before we get into exactly what you're doing for St. Jude's, let's back up a little bit. You'd been in and around broadcasting for really most of your adult life.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I kind of fell into, something I never thought that I would end up doing. And I think I missed the mark when I joined Alsac St. Jude in December of last year and missed my radio anniversary by about 20 years by 1 month.
Is
So if
that
I would have
right?
made it to January, it would have been 20 years for me.
Now, back in the day, because I'm old enough to be a back in the day guy, it really kind of ran in your blood. I left the industry myself 3 times, but I always found my way back. You've been with St. Jude's now for what, a year and a half?
Oh, it'll be coming up on 6 months, actually.
Oh, that's all. It's only been 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, we're not missing the broadcast business, or we're actually enjoying doing something a little different for a while.
Listen, I will always miss it because the camaraderie, the people, be able to affect change in people's daily lives in an instant, that's something that I will always miss. But it was just a situation, an opportunity, and to work for a world-class organization like St. Jude, I could tell the moment that I started that I'll never be able to look back. So it's an amazing opportunity.
Now, you were affected, as I'm sure many of our listeners can appreciate, by the pandemic in an industry that's really made up of creative people, and it's show business. I always tell young people that come into the industry, don't forget we're in the business of show business, believe it or not. Uh, how different was it for you those couple of years when the building was basically empty?
Well, I mean, it's something you always said when we were working together. The show's got to go on, no matter the adversity, no matter what happens. You still have to pick up, and you still got to put on a smile and put on a show and entertain people, no matter if you're going through one of the worst days of your life or the country is going through something that they've never gone through before. At the end of the day, they just want to know that somebody else is there, can relate, and is going through the same thing that they're going through in the same place. That was the magic of broadcasting, and especially local radio, is the things that were happening in Springfield were also happening to us, so we could relate and we could empathize with everyone that was listening to us every day in the Ozarks, whether it was happening to them in the same way it was happening nationally. It was happening to us together here in the Ozarks.
Right, and the research I've seen now really talks about that connection. The one thing, radio has been up against a lot of headwinds, obviously with things all digital and the things that are occurring in the video world as well, like what we're doing now. But there still is a connection, a one-to-one connection. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just being able to turn on the radio or TV somewhere in a local medium and you can know that that person's going through the same thing that you're going through. It's just a sense of relief that, all right, we're in this together. We're not, it's not me versus the world. It's the Ozarks versus maybe everyone else.
Yeah, right. I like that. My guest today on Around the Ozark Spotlight is Scott Ellis. Scott, the former operations manager here at Midwest Family. But currently, and Scott, I asked you to tell the folks your title, but you're working with St. Jude's Children Research Hospital in what situation? What's the title?
Yeah, so I work for ALSAC, which is the fundraising and awareness arm of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And my title is Advisor Area Development for Southern Missouri. But I'm based right here in Springfield. I didn't leave, but I cover everything from Joplin, Missouri, all the way over to Cape Girardeau. So, I take care
Oh,
of
is that
things.
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think here in a few weeks, I'm going to Dexter, Missouri to cover a charity golf event. So I handle fundraising and then experiential. So we have our 5K walk run, which is coming up September 16th at Hammonds Field. We just had our Dream Home initiative, which our beautiful Dream Home is in Republic, Missouri. I've handled radiothons from Thayer, Missouri to Republic, not sorry, to Republic to Joplin to Poplar Bluff. I mean, I've been all over Southern Missouri. That's kind of my that's my bag these days.
So let's talk a little bit about St. Jude's. People have heard about it, but it's not unlike, I think, sometimes the Ronald McDonald House. Most people have heard about it, don't necessarily know exactly why St. Jude's is as popular and as massive as it is. Massive from the standpoint that it appears that they work with children from across the country,
Across the world.
across the world.
So
Okay,
that is one of the new initiatives that they are working on right now. But St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is based out of Memphis, Tennessee, but they work with people all across the United States, and specifically here in the Ozarks, we have an affiliate clinic at Mercy here in Springfield, and we help a lot of people here in the Ozarks. So if you have a child that is dealing with pediatric cancer, they're the people you should call. And every doctor that you talk to will tell you the same thing. You need to go see St. Jude because they have the best treatment, the best care. You won't pay a bill for travel, treatment, housing, or food. And guess what? Here's the best thing, and this is the thing that I always get so proud talking about when it comes to St. Jude, is they are one of the world leaders in pediatric cancer research, and they don't charge anybody. Most people, and I'm not talking about other charities, but a lot of organizations, when they do research, they put a patent on that, and then they try to sell that to make money off it. St. Jude is completely and totally open source. So let's say they find a cure for sickle cell, hypothetically, then that's out there for
right.
the world. They're not going to charge anybody. They want to beat cancer, whatever the cost.
Where did it begin, Scott? What
So
prompted St.
Danny
Jude's to
Thomas
be
was
what they are?
so Danny Thomas, the entertainer and performer from back in the day. He was honestly down on his luck. He was a comedian. He wasn't able to get the gigs that he wanted to get, and so he made a prayer to Saint Jude, which is the saint of hopeless causes, hopeless and lost causes. And he said, if you help me with my goal, I will build you a shrine. And then, sure enough, the next day he gets a call to be on one of these huge variety shows, and his career just took off like a rocket for that. And the great thing about Danny Thomas is did exactly what he said he was going to do. He went to Memphis. He built this amazing hospital, built the shrine specifically to help those kids in need. He said that no kid should, lose their life should lose in the dawn of life. And so he built this hospital from the ground up in Memphis, and this is where we are today.
Well, it's pretty amazing, and it's an amazing story. Of course, Danny Thomas was Marlo Thomas's father,
Yeah.
and most people would remember Marlo Thomas from the show in Minneapolis. What was the name of that show? I don't
Oh,
remember.
you're
Come on, you gotta help me on this
I
one. I
don't know
mean,
the name of that show off the top of my head. I'm having a brain fart as well.
oh my God, we're gonna make it. Okay, I could sing the jingle, but we don't want to go there. So you're saying that it treats kids from all over the world. That's got to be a list at some point of kids that are waiting, or are they able to
No,
actually help all kids that come to their door?
they try to help as many kids as possible. The great thing that they're doing now with their global initiative is they are partnering with other organizations around the world, and then they are teaching them the St. Jude way so we can expand the mission globally. So the last time I was in Memphis, I was at a conference, and one of the things they did is they had, I want to say, 11 other sister global charities. One was from Argentina, one was from Ukraine, one was from Uganda, and they were had the heads of those charities into Memphis so they could learn the St. Jude way and then take that back to around the world and help kids everywhere.
Now you had some history with St. Jude's prior to coming to work for us here at Midwest Family.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly the first time. So, like you talked about earlier, I'd been on the air for almost 20 years. The first time I'd ever been on the radio was for a St. Jude Children's Research Hospital radiothon in Poplar Bluff. never been on the air before. They said, "Hey, you work here. I was just some kid. Can you go down to this local furniture store called Hefner's and do a remote?" A, I asked, "What's a remote?" I don't know what that means. And then B, "What do you need me to do?" So basically, I took a microphone. I stood out there, did live breaks from this furniture store, and asked people to come give money for this cause that I'd heard of, but didn't know a lot about. And I was absolutely blown away by how the community came together. They go, "We've heard of St. Jude. They do such good work." And people would, I mean, and I'm talking people that are not necessarily of means. They've heard the good work that St. Judas did, and they wanted to give every little bit that they could because they knew the mission was so important.
Well, it's amazing, you know, cancer. I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm sure you know a lot of people that are cancer survivors. It really touches almost every person. But once you introduce children into the mix, it kind of changes the whole outlook on it.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, who doesn't get their heartstrings tugged on when you're talking about this? And then just seeing the impact that we can make and that we can make a difference. I mean, listen, I love doing radio every day. It was very rewarding, but it's a different kind of rewarding knowing that you're making the impact and helping a family and a child going through literally the toughest time in their life. Like, I'll run through a wall for that. Like, I will do anything if I can help just raise $1 each day so I can help a family go through this situation they're going through right now.
Now, you were part of a program at a competing radio company where they
Mhm,
raise money every year for St. Jude's. Can you
mhm.
share with our audience a little bit about what that looked like and the kinds of dollars that the Ozarks provided with those radiothons?
I mean, we raise six figures every year. I'm talking $100,000 plus every year, thanks to people here in the Ozarks. I mean, and that's simply by people calling, texting, going to the website, and getting involved. But for example, we are just now wrapping up our Dream Home initiative of the home that we're doing in Republic. But we raised $1,075,000 this year alone, which is the most money that's ever been raised in Southwest Missouri with the Dream Home Initiative. So if we do the $100,000 that we've done with Radiothon, the 1.075 that we just did with Dream Home, and then we're going to shoot direct to raise another $250,000 with Walk Run coming up. That's how impactful and how proud I am to say that I live here in the Ozarks, because the type of dollars that we're able to raise just by those three events. And that has nothing to do with all the other countless side charity golf tournaments and other events that we do. I mean, I'm proud, so proud to say that I live here in the Ozarks just because of the outpouring of support that we get from our community.
You know, it's amazing when you travel around the country. Sometimes it's a little tongue in cheek when people talk about their thoughts about the Ozarks. Not that everybody's
Yeah.
been here or spent time here, and the amount of giving that people that live in this region of the country do is over the top.
I mean, absolutely. I can give you an example. Thayer, Missouri, tiny town just on the southern border, right north of Arkansas. That was my first ever radiothon that I worked for St. Jude. And you know, you think of a small town, you don't think that they're going to be able to raise a whole lot of money. Let me tell you, they raised over $300,000 in the small community of Thayer, Missouri, because they come together as a community every year. This is something that they look forward to. And we were
Mhm.
pacing for about $200,000. Okay. They pull me into the studio and tell me the story of this very nice lady who every year came and donated. And they said, she sits in this stool right here. She passed away last year. And the last thing that she wanted to do um, in her will is she wanted to liquidate her estate. And then the person who was a member of her family handed us a check for $97,000 right
Is
there.
that
I
right?
was blown away. I mean, talking, wiping away tears from my cheek of
Oh,
this
sure.
amazing story.
That's a great story. And hang on to that. I'm going to ask you for some more stories when we come back. You're listening to my guest today on Around the Ozark Spotlight, Scott Ellis. Scott is involved in really the marketing side and fundraising side of St. Jude's for most of Missouri. Is that fair? Are
Yes,
you
Southern
part of
Missouri,
Kansas
absolutely.
City and St. Louis? At least the southern half of the state.
Correct.
So you're covering covering quite a big footprint. We're going to come back after a few moments and finish up our conversation with Scott. We'll be back with more on Around the Ozark Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
Welcome back to the second half of today's Around the Ozark Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier, and with me today is Scott Ellis. Scott is head of both marketing and fundraising for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for the southern half of the entire state of Missouri. So, Scott, you're putting on some miles doing that.
You know, I try to get all the way from Joplin to Cape Girardeau, see as many people as possible. It's a rewarding mission, so it keeps me busy.
I have to share with our listeners and viewers that one of the reasons that I personally got into our industry was because of the change that we could make for people. It's amazing when you ask folks for things and you give them the story that they actually change lives, and that's the beauty of broadcast. So with your 20 years experience in broadcasting, I would assume you're able to bring some new ideas and just maybe a little different way of thinking for St. Jude's on some of their fundraising. Is that fair?
I mean, that is the goal. I mean, listen, let me tell you, the people at St. Jude are pretty smart and they've got this thing figured out. But I do try to bring some different ideas and things that I've learned along the way, and how we can make different impacts and how we can reach that demographic that may be just a little bit younger than what they're trying to get right now. But I've learned a lot of things since joining the ALSAC St. Jude team. They really know what they're doing.
No, it's they've been doing it a long time, and like you
Yeah.
said, the numbers in Southwest Missouri, just in the Springfield area, uh, sound like they're close to seven figures or more.
Yeah, we are doing an amazing job, and I'm super proud of the amount of money that we've been able to raise right here in the Ozarks, from over $1 million of Dream Home, six figures with our Radiothon partners, and then also what we're going to try to do coming up September 16th with the walk around. We're going to try and raise $250,000. It's super fun, and it's going to be a fun event. So.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had a chance to spend a little time in Memphis at the research center itself. Did you get a chance to meet some of the children that are being helped?
Now, so there's strict COVID protocol. So, they try to keep everyone
Oh,
who's not a, healthcare professional away from children. So I've not met anybody that was at the hospital, but I have met families here in the Ozarks that have been affected and have gone through treatment.
and those stories have got to be a little heart-rending.
I mean, yes, I mean, you have, super sad stories, but you also have super uplifting stories, about people that have gone through treatment and then are perfectly fine now. I mean, I met a individual at a radiothon in Poplar Bluff just a few months ago, and I believe he was a few years older than I am, and completely healthy. He was telling me the story about how he went through treatment. Now, everyone who is a patient has I think it's a 6 or 7 digit number that they go through the system. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so old of a patient. I only have a 4 digit number. I'm one of the." He calls himself one of the OG patients. But
Really?
he was a super nice individual, and he had a very uplifting story. And it's so nice to see those stories, and those are the type of things that keep you motivated and keep you going, and just make you run through a wall for this amazing organization.
The headwinds that the broadcast industry has faced over the last few years because of all the competition out there. How is it to continue to do a radiothon today? Because I believe one of the radio stations across the street is still doing the St. Jude's Radiothon every year. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do things a little bit differently than how we started, but it's all about getting the message out there. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously people know about what the organization it is, but just like anything else, you, things go to the back of your mind. So it's getting that message and what we're trying to do to the forefront, and let you know. So you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of St. Jude. Oh, I didn't realize that not only do they, help sick kids, but they also do research that's completely and totally open source, and they don't put a patent on it, and they're not trying to make money off it. They're literally just trying to cure that specific strain of cancer.
Oh, that's
That's
such a
the
good story.
yeah. So, and try to share, heartwarming stories. One of my favorite stories has got to be the mac and cheese story. I don't know if you've heard this before.
Yeah.
When the kids are going through cancer at St. Jude, they got to go through radiation. They got to go through chemo. So sometimes, they don't want to eat. Obviously they want to give them a very well balanced, healthy diet. But
Hmm.
sometimes you just got to get them to eat something. And so they asked this one kid, "What would you like to eat?" And she goes, "I want my grandma's mac and cheese." She says, "Okay." So they sent a runner down to the kitchen, and they have a world-class kitchen down there. They whipped her up some mac and cheese, sent the runner back up with the mac and cheese. The kid's like, it's not the same.
It's not grandma's.
Okay, not grandma's mac and cheese. So they asked the mom, "How do you make grandma's mac and cheese?" And she kind of gave her, a brief overview, sent that back down to the kitchen, whipped it up, sent it back up to the kid. The kid, I'm not really feeling it. It's not, it's not grandma's mac and cheese. So you know
Sure.
what they did? The chef got the phone number of the grandma, called grandma, said, "I'm in a world-class chef. I'm a world-class kitchen here. What can I do? Walk me through step by step how to make your mac and cheese." And sure enough, with the grandma on the phone and the chef down in the kitchen, they whipped up the perfect mac and cheese, sent that back up, and that little girl ate it. As
Yeah.
by far my favorite St. Jude story.
No, that's a great story. I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? That's why you want to
Yeah.
fundraise, and why you want to hear stories like that. Now, you had mentioned that there were a number of families that are touched here in the Ozark area. Uh,
Yeah.
so the money that's raised here, do we find a lot of that money assists those kids and families?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have an affiliate clinic right here in Springfield that's at Mercy Hospital, but also there are countless families that are getting flown or paid for gas and getting housing and treatment and food and all kinds of things going down to Memphis. I know several patient families here in the Ozarks that are going through treatment right now, and they have to either drive all the time back and forth
Sure.
from Springfield or the Ozarks to Memphis. Or I know a few families right now that they consider the Ozarks visiting because they are being home based, fighting for their lives in the hospital right now. And so they considered, you know, we get to go back and visit our home for a couple days until we've got to come back for our next round of treatment. And the great thing about that is while you're here getting through treatment, you don't have to pay a bill for treatment, travel, food, or housing. They're taking care of all that because at the end of the day, there are studies that have proven that if your family is not worried about those things,
Yeah.
if you're one family unit and you're all just concerned about getting better, you will get better. Like that's how that's going to work. You're more likely to get better if you're focused on that instead of these ancillary things that are just, things you shouldn't be worrying about.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And you froze up there for a minute, so I hope
Oh,
folks had
sorry.
a chance to hear that. No, that nothing you can do. We'll blame the internet. That's the best we can do, right? Is blame
Yeah.
the internet. It's I really love your passion for this, Scott. As passionate as you were about the broadcast business, this really seems to bring a brightness to your face that I'm not sure I'd seen even walking the halls here.
Oh, it is very motivating and very rewarding. So thank you for saying that.
Now, when you mentioned to your partner that you were going to leave the radio business and be at home a lot, how's she doing with that? How's that working out?
Well, we're still trying to get that all figured out, and thankfully, she works in healthcare, so it was something that I think she understood, and someone that she used to work at the affiliate clinic at Mercy, so she understood my drive and my mission for it, so it worked out great.
Now, because you talked about your territory being so wide and far across southern Missouri, how often are you on the road?
I would say I'm in Memphis at least once a quarter. I'm in St. Louis, where our regional office is, every other month, and then I would say I'm in some different city of either the Ozarks or Southeast Missouri, every week, if not multiple times a week.
So you're staying busy.
Very busy all the time. It was a rush for me to
It's
get
no
here
question
just
it's a
so I could
busy
make this
job.
interview.
What's I missed that because it froze again.
I
I'm
go, it was
sorry.
a rush for me just to get here so I could make this interview. So yes, I'm super busy all the time.
Well, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to bring us up to speed. The Let's go back to the radio business if we can for just a minute. My guest is Scott Ellis. Scott was our operations manager here at Midwest Family for what, Scott? 2 years, 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, yeah, almost 3 years.
Yeah, it was quite a while. And our industry has undergone some massive changes. Now that you're on the outside looking in, with
Mhm.
respect to the fact that it's not day to day for you,
Yep.
do you see any things that I see things that maybe we should be doing as broadcasters more of that maybe we haven't been doing just as an observer, as
I mean, I think, we have to lean in,
opposed to someone who's just
yeah, I mean, I think you have to lean into being local. You've got to stay with that touch point of, you know, knowing what's going on in the community because we just syndicate everything and just try to talk about national things. You can get that anywhere. But if you're talking about what's going on right here in the Ozarks, what's going on in your hometown and everybody else's hometown, like that's what's going to actually resonate. People can get music and national topics anywhere, but if you can tell them what's going on in Ozark or what's going on in Rogersville, like that's what people care about. They can't get that from anywhere else. So
boy, we both went dark there for a minute. So the point of the conversation, I think some of us missed was certainly the internet is key because we're struggling
right.
with staying very. So are we
All right.
back?
I think we're
Think we're
back.
back. Okay. So, what was it fair to say? The part that I think maybe some of the listeners and viewers had missed is, in your mind, the successful radio stations are the ones that are as local as they can be.
I think you have to be. I mean, otherwise, you are just a background noise or a secondary option to somebody else's Spotify playlist. I mean, we are as broadcasters, we have a duty to the community to inform, to entertain, and to at the end of the day be a part of that community, whether that's through reaching out and helping those in need, helping out with nonprofit, informing of what's going on in the community, or just being a part of it. I mean, listen, just being able to turn on the radio and listen to Jay Stevens and him being able to tell me what's going on here in the Ozarks, it's nice because I know he's here and I know I might bump into him. That changes the world to me that, that I have someone else that's going through it with me.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. The We're about out of time, and it makes me sad because I love you sharing the stories that you've been able to share about your time so far with St. Jude. I take it this is going to be for a while.
I would hope
We're
so.
enjoying what we're doing,
Listen,
and
I'm gonna be here as long as they'll have me. Just real quick, just don't forget if you'd like to sign up for our walk run coming up September 16th. That's going to be at Hammons Field where they play Springfield Cardinals. You can do so at stjude.org/walk. I would love for everybody to come join us. It's completely free to sign up. It'll cost you nothing.
wow, that's excellent, Scott. I want to thank you for being my guest today. I know you're a busy guy, and really appreciate you bringing us up to speed on all the good things that are happening with St. Jude's. Also, I want to thank my producer Taylor Worley and Jay Stevens, as well as you for joining us today. If you happen to miss all or part of today's program, you can find it in its entirety, as best you can, in its entirety on the Midwest Family Springfield.cheer and last. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Remember, every day is a gift. Enjoy life. Thanks again, Scott.
Thanks.